Today is Ganesha's, also known as Ganapati's birthday. I deeply resonate with Ganesha, and this festival is one of my most favorite festivals. It is celebrated with a lot of grandeur in the part of the world I come from, which is Mumbai, Maharashtra. Ganesha, the word Ganapati or Ganesha has two words. One is Gana, which means all people, all species, all forms, anything that has a form, Gana, or is formless, Gana. Isha, Ganesha, Isha is the Lord, or Ganapati, Pati is the Lord. So he's the Lord of all forms, really responsible for your soul reaching its destination. So Ganesha itself, the word means that he's the Lord of your soul that will take you to salvation, so to say. This festival of Ganesh Chaturthi has a lot of significance. It has social, cultural, religious, philosophical, and spiritual significance. Um, let's talk about the social significance of this festival. It was public celebrations of Ganesh Chaturthi was not always common. It was pretty common in Pune during the era of Shivaji Maharaj, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who was the ruler of the Maratha Empire from 1630 to 1680. Sarvajanik celebration or public celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi was seen then, but then it slowly faded away, especially with the British rule, the British Raj, right, in India. And it was only in 1892 we first heard about a Sarvajanik or public celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi by Bahu Sahib Lakshman Jawale. And the beauty of this Sarvajanik celebration was it allowed people to come together. So the then freedom fighter of India, Lokmanya Tilak, who used to run a local newspaper called Kesari, publicized this event a lot because it allowed people to come together. So in British Raj, people were not allowed to gather. The Britishers especially um, prohibited large number of people to come together because they knew they would strategize and then revolt against the British rule. So Ganesh Chaturthi became one of those events where it was a cultural and religious event. So people came together to celebrate something that seemed very religious, but it allowed them to come together and discuss their philosophies and their ideologies and strategize, especially against the British rule. Because then we didn't have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. We didn't have all the internet where people could share and discuss their ideas, or email for that matter. And public celebration or Sarvajanik celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi served as one of those events where people would come together. And Lokmanya Tilak really pushed hard for and urged people to come together and celebrate. And celebration in dark times also gives you hope and light. So that was one of the reasons. In this day and age, a lot of Maharashtrian families, many Hindu families do it, but it's predominant in Maharashtrian families where they come together as a family or as a community. A bunch of people would come together as a community, and on Ganesh Chaturthi, they will bring the idol of Ganesha. It will be a clay form or clay idol of Ganesha home or in their community, and worship it from anywhere from 1.5 to 10 days. And on the last day, on the last day of worship, they would take the idol and immerse it in the ocean. So you bring the deity and you bring the goodies that the deity brings, all the blessings that the deity brings, and then you hand over all your desires, fears, sorrows, anxieties, joys, your gratefulness. You hand all of that onto the idol, and the idol carries it as a vibration. You immerse it in the ocean, and the idol merges with the cosmos. So then it's like you becoming the cosmos, right? Through a very small, mundane, seemingly mundane ritual. But it reminds you of how when you die and then you go away, your body and your essence and your vibrations merge with that of the cosmos. It's a beautiful symbology. There's a story associated with the origin of, so to say, birth of Ganesha. Shiva and Parvati, their husband and wife, and Shiva would be on his travels, right? He had this bunch of groupies and his entourage, and they would travel the universe um, to gain experience and do all sorts of things to just explore. And Parvati was by herself in Kailash and was very lonely. So she had, and Parvati is an embodiment of love. And she had so much love that she wanted to pour it into something, right? So she, from her body, she conjures this clay baby and then infuses consciousness into it. So she channels the energies of the Shakti, of all the Shaktis, and then infuses it into this baby and brings it to life. So, Ganesha has powers of Shakti that are really so pure, right? Now, this baby is tasked to stand at the door and guard while Parvati goes and takes a shower. So, Ganesha, being an obedient son, stands guard at the door. And at that moment, Shiva comes back from his travels with his entourage and demands to go inside. Shiva has no knowledge about this child. Parvati didn't have Instagram where she could post a story and tell Shiva that she has a baby. They didn't have WhatsApp. They didn't have any of those things, right? They had no internet. So Shiva really didn't know this was his son. Likewise, Ganesha didn't know this was his father. So he was standing guard at the door, and Shiva demands to go in. And it's not Ganesha's fault. He is being this obedient child, and there's this strange man demanding to go inside while his mom is having a shower. He opposes it. Ganesha is completely opposed it. Shiva, in his anger, beheads Ganesha. Shiva takes snap decisions. It's binary, yes or no. No, cut the head. That's it. There's not a lot of gray. It's all binary sometimes with him. So he cuts Ganesha's head. And at the time, Parvati comes and she's enraged, but also struck by grief because this is her son. And she has made him from her own body and her own flesh. And at that moment, Shiva really realizes what he did. So he tells his groupies, tells his people to go and find the first head they find. And so they find an elephant head, and Shiva then installs that elephant head onto the body and infuses life back into that body. So that's the strange origin story of Ganesha. And if you think about it, Ganesha is this boy, this human boy without a head. It's very similar to Ketu. Ketu is the south node of the moon, but the symbology of Ketu is the body without the head. The head is the Rahu, which wants to grab at experiences and taste and eat and eat and eat. But the body, neck down, is completely Ketu, which is a repository of all the experiences, but it is also the repository of all the emotions where things are getting processed, right? So Ganesha is also symbolized with a huge belly. He has such a huge belly. He has to lift it, right? You see him supporting his belly. A lot of his depiction is with him holding the belly up. And yes, he loves sweets, and yes, he eats anything, but the big belly is a symbology of him being able to digest anything you throw at him. So you bring your sorrows, he'll digest it for you. You bring your anxiety, your restlessness, your depression, your PTSD, your happiness, your joy, your lust, your pleasure, anything you bring it to him, he'll digest it for you. He'll hold it in his belly for you so that there is enough time for you to process and digest it. So Ganesha is very similar to Ketu. It's the neck down, the entire body. Also, if you think about it, the neck down Ketu portion of us is the repository of all our past experiences, right? And oftentimes you will see Ganesha is depicted as writing. He's always writing. He's writing the Vedas. He's writing something. He's constantly writing. And they think of him, or he's attributed as the one who keeps the Akashic records, which are basically records of the sum total of all our experiences. So he keeps those records. So it's very similar to Ketu. Ganesh Chaturthi is celebrated on the tithi called Chaturthi. Chaturthi is the tithi. And tithi is literally the lunar phase, right? My teacher, Sam Sadashiv Jeffy, is actually doing a class later in September on Panchanga. Panch means 5, Anga means limbs. It's really like 5 qualifying factors of the day, of timekeeping, literally. You should take that class if you're interested, because it really helps you understand the quality of each day. The 5 Angam being Dina, or the day, Tithi, which is the lunar phase, Nakshatra, which means where the moon is, in which nakshatra or which constellation on that day. There is Yoga and Karana. So those are the 5 parts of the day, Panch Anga, 5 sections of the day, or 5 qualifying factors for the day. Chaturthi is actually qualified as Rikta. There are 5 qualifications for Tithis. One is Nanda, Bhadra, Rikta, Jaya, and Purna. I think it goes Nanda, Bhadra, Jaya, Rikta, and Purna. Nanda is if you do any activities on those days that will bring you happiness. Bhadra is it will bring you prosperity. Jaya is those activities will bring you victory. Purna is activities that finish up, right? That complete certain things. However, Rikta, the qualifying tithi Rikta, is literally means empty. It's the day you purge, you empty out stuff, you destroy things that don't serve you. There are 4 Rikta Tithis. One is Chaturthi, which is the 4th lunar day after a new moon or a full moon. Navami, which is the 9th lunar day. And Chaturdashi, this is the 4th lunar day, the day right before the new moon or the full moon. I said 4. There are 3 Tithis that are qualified as Rikta. Very interestingly, we celebrate Ganesha's birthday on a Tithi, which is Rikta, right? Ganesh Chaturthi. If you think about Lord Rama's birthday, it's on Ram Navami, which is also Navami, or the 9th lunar day is Rikta. And it's important to ponder or think why the birth dates of these important deities or figures that are worshipped as gods in India are celebrated on such harsh tithis, which are like you just purge and let go and destroy things that don't work for you, and you're celebrating their birthday. Ganesha is actually also celebrated as the remover of obstacles. And in modern days, it's that meaning of remover of obstacles, or Vighna Harta, Vighna meaning obstacles, Harta meaning somebody who removes it, has been very diluted, right? My friend Kurt, who actually works with Manoj Chalam, my friend Manoj Chalam, once asked me that why do we celebrate Ganesha as remover of obstacles? If we don't have challenges or obstacles in life, how are we going to grow? And it's a great question. We have to remember that Ganesha is the first deity that's invoked, especially during Vedic times when people would perform these yagyas and havans, right? And yagyas and havans were performed to create certain change and transformation, or to tap into certain energies of the cosmos. And these were like very intense ceremonies. That were those intense ceremonies were aimed at creating intense, deep changes in human life. And then you invoke Ganesha as a protector of this whole process. He is removing obstacles, not that really transform you, but he's removing any obstacles in that process of your transformation. There's a difference. And we need to really just stop being silly about, remover of obstacles, meaning he removes all the obstacles in my life and my life is so easy. And if your life is so easy and there is just no wear or tear, how are you going to grow? How is that muscle going to grow, right? Even to build body muscles, people who perform strength training actually create a tear in that muscle. So Ganesha is not going to prevent that tear and yet give you the muscle. He's going to protect or prevent any obstacles from coming in that process of your transformation. We really think about how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. The caterpillar, when it's in the cocoon and is transforming or developing wings and doing all of that stuff in that cocoon, in that incubation period, if you go and kill that cocoon then or destroy it then, the caterpillar would never become the butterfly. So Ganesha, the remover of obstacles or Vignaharta, is really about not interrupting or removing any obstacles in the process of that transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly. Allow that entire transformation and protect anything that obstructs it. That's the real essence of Vignaharta. We talked about Ganesha having no head, like Ketu, and he carries the repository of all our experiences. He also is said to have Vakratunda, so his trunk is actually Vakratunda, which is twisted. Vakra meaning twisted trunk. What's the symbology of that? It symbolizes that the importance of actions in life. Inaction is just not congruent with your higher dharmic purposes, right? So the rightful or authentic or dharmic actions, the Vakratunda, shows the trunk in action. It's not a trunk that's just sitting around. It's a trunk in action. It performs that action. And we have to remember, us being on this planet, we need to carry out our actions, our karmas, because our karmas and our actions, which are authentic and hopefully karmic, is what keeps the life going here, right? I mean, human life, not other life. Every other life will exist, whether human beings exist or not. Climate change, whatever, other species would easily exist. But for human beings to exist on this planet, we need to carry out our karmas. Hopefully, they are karmic. And why is it important for us to carry out our karmas? Is because we need to keep the system going so that souls like us can come and work out their karmas, right? And maybe in the next incarnation, you come back to work out some remaining karmas. If life on earth for humans is not feasible due to whatever reason, then where are these souls going to go and work out their karmas? So that's important to remember. The Vakratunda, be in action, always be in action. The broken tusk is another symbol of Ganesha, and there's a story attached to it. If you think about Ganesha as a little kid, he was very naughty. Ganesha was very naughty, slightly arrogant, full of power. Parvati has infused the powers of Shakti in him, so he's very powerful but very naughty, hard to discipline. So Shiva approaches Ved Vyasa. Ved Vyasa was going to write Mahabharata, and Ved Vyasa was looking for a disciple or a student who would write. Ved Vyasa would narrate, and somebody would write it. So Ved Vyasa reluctantly agrees to have Ganesha as a disciple. And Ganesha is also very clever. He said, I will write this book for you, which is Mahabharata is an epic. It's huge and big. But Ganesha says, I'll stop writing as the moment I get bored. The moment there's a lull in the story, I will stop writing. And Vyasa says, okay, deal. My deal is you should not stop writing till this whole story is over. And your deal is you will stop writing the moment the story becomes dull. So they agree to this deal, and Ganesha starts writing Mahabharata as it's being narrated by Ved Vyasa. And in the process, Ganesha's intellect, that buddhi, Ganesha also represents Mercury. The buddhi starts to refine and refine and refine. His course buddhi starts to refine. It's really jnana yoga, and he starts enlightening, right? The process of enlightenment starts. And the moment he's enlightened, he's also extremely humbled as Ved Vyasa is narrating the story and he's writing. In the process, Ganesha is so humbled, he breaks his tusk and he starts writing. For elephants, if you think, tusk is also a symbol of beauty, right? It represents their the value of the elephant is in that tusk, which of course everybody smuggles and all that kind of stuff. But breaking that tusk, Ganesha breaks his ego and continues writing. So it shows the importance of humility in the process of spiritual growth. A lot of us probably need to, suffer through some degree of spiritual arrogance, and real spiritual growth comes after that deep humility and surrender. My mom used to taught me a verse that that's my invocation verse every time I think about Ganesha. It goes as Moshika Vahana, Modaka Hasta, Chamada Karna, Vilambita Sutra, Vamana Rupa, Maheshwara Putra, Vighna Vinayaka Pada Namaste. Moshika Vahana. Moshika is the mouse or the rat, the rodent. And if you think about rodent, it's constantly wavering, right? It's constantly wavering, can't stay steady. It's like your mind, it's constantly wavering. Moshika Vahana, he sits on it. So if you think about your mind like the mouse that constantly wavers, Ganesha sits on it with his heavy weight. Like that's the heaviness of him. He just sits on it and forces you to focus in one direction. So you're thinking about all these things. You're thinking about what you posted on Instagram. You're thinking about the next video you're going to make. You're thinking about your work tomorrow while you're with your wife and kids having dinner. And Ganesha comes and sits on that wavering mind and gets you to focus. So Moshika Vahana, that mouse, Moshika, is the symbology for your mind. Vahana is the vehicle. That Moshika Vahana becomes his vehicle. Modaka Hasta. He has modak, which is a dessert that he loves and enjoys. But Ganesha loves sweets. So Modaka Hasta, really shows that once you focus on your own spiritual growth, on just getting where you need to get, on performing your duties and responsibilities in all authenticity, right? If you focus on that, Ganesha would bring you the fruits or the dessert or the sweetness that you desire, the fruits of your labor. So Modaka Hasta, Chamada Karana. Chamada Karana, his Karana is yours. Chamada is like the winnowing basket. That Chamada Karana is really a symbol of, imagine the winnowing basket, right? It's huge. He has huge ears. It really symbolizes the importance of listening. Listen, really listen. Don't talk, listen. So it's not just hearing to respond or hearing to be quick, hearing to snap back, but it's really listening in, listening to everything around you, listening to the rhythms of life. So Chamada Karana, importance of listening in your own growth and evolution, right? Vilambita Sutra, Vilambita Sutra, it's the white thread that Brahmins wear. And I'm not talking about Brahmins as a caste, but Brahmins as in those who have studied the scriptures. So the Brahmins is symbology of wisdom. So Vilambita Sutra, he wears this thread around his left shoulder, the white thread, which symbolizes wisdom, which symbolizes that he's read all the scriptures and not just read but digested it. A big belly, right? He's really digested it. Vilambita Sutra. Vamana Rupa. Vamana is an incarnation of Vishnu, which was a dwarf. So Ganesha is Vamana Rupa. He's like a dwarf. He's short and stout, just like me. So he's Vamana Rupa. He's Maheshwara Putra. He's son of Shiva. Maheshwara Putra. Vighna. Vighna is really obstacles, but also like just constant wavering, right? Should I do this? Should I do that? Maybe I should be this. Maybe I should be that. I don't know. I can't make up my mind. That's also Vighna. It's just creates obstacles in your process of moving forward, in your process of evolution, the constant confusion that we create by having so much information. Information is good, really. Information is good, but not having discrimination and just constantly wavering with every information you get is also creates obstacles. So Vighna, like removing all that unnecessary Vinayaka, he just destroys it. Father Namaste, that feet, Father, I bow down to it, Namaste. I hope this video is useful to you. I hope you can invoke some essence of Ganesha on Ganesh Chaturthi. Some essence. I hope he helps you to uplift your life, to evolve, to just feel a connection with the divine, to be hopeful in the times we live. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi.